Welcome everyone to our lesson on rates. Before we get into rates, which is lesson 5.3, let's do a quick warm-up kind of reviewing what we worked on yesterday. So on the back of last night's homework, or maybe some scratch paper if you don't have room, let's look at these two problems. So for every 4 laps you swim, your friend swims 6 laps. Your friend swims a total of 9 laps. How many laps did you swim? So to figure this out, if you need a little help, we want to set up a table. Now I'm just going to draw the horizontal lines. I'm not going to draw all the vertical lines. They tend to get in the way. And this looks like a lot like a fraction, which I think helps as well. So we have you and your friend. And it says our ratio is for every 4 that you swim, your friend swims 6. Now we know the total that your friend did was 9, and we're trying to find out how many you did. So again, when you're doing these types of problems, we want to figure out how we can get 4 to 6 equivalent to something over 9. Now, there's no easy way to go from 6 to 9, although it is possible. What we could do is try and first simplify this ratio. So simplify 4, 6 as kind of an intermediate step here. So what is 4, 6 equivalent to? And then once you get it simplified, then see if you can get to something over 9. All right, so you can try that. And then for B, the amusement park sells 5 bottles of water for every 2 bottles of juice. In 1 hour, the amusement park sells a total, so combined water and juice of 28 bottles. So how many bottles of juice, so just the juice, does the amusement park sell? So we can set this up as well as water, and then juice. And then we have a total. So it's kind of like a fraction and a fraction. But again, you can think of this as a table. I'm just not drawing the vertical lines here. So we have 5 waters to 2 juices. Now total 5 plus 2 is 7. So we have 5, 2, and 7. Now they said in an hour we sell 28 bottles of water and juice combined. So you got to think, how do we go? Well, first of all, this is already simplified, right? We can't simplify this anymore. So now it's how do we go from 7 to 28? We want to find out how much juice. Now we can also find out how much water, but the question asks for juice. All right, so give those two a try, see how you do. All right, so looking at the first one, first simplifying 4 to 6 down to 2 to 3, and then once it's simplified to 2 to 3, we can go ahead and get it to 6 to 9. So you swam 6 laps. For part B, again, we have 5 waters to 2 juice, so 5 plus 2 is 7. We were told that they sold 28 bottles of water and juice combined. So how many groups of 7 is that? That's 4 groups of 7, so we have to do 2 times 4, which gives us 8. And then if we wanted to, 4 groups of 5 water gives us 20. Notice 20 plus 8 gives us our total of 28. So the amusement park sold 8 bottles of juice. All right, so on to our next topic of ratios, which is called rates. Now, rates are just the same thing as ratio. The only difference is we have different units. So instead of comparing pieces of fruit, like apples to oranges, or comparing people, like girls to boys, okay, we're actually comparing 2 different units. So for example, we have $27 for 3 pizzas. So when we write this unit, we must always, or when we write this rate, we must always write the units as part of our answer. So we can write this a couple ways. First, we could do it as a fraction. So we could do $27 for 3 pizzas. So notice I'm using the units. Okay, or we could kind of write it as a phrase. $27 for every 3 pizzas. 160 miles in 4 hours. We could write in fraction form 160 miles for every 4 hours. Or we can write it in a phrase, 160 miles for every 4 hours. And last but not least, we have 32 gallons in 8 minutes, or 32 gallons for every 8 minutes. All right, so again, rates are just ratios, just that we need to include the units because they are different types of measures. Go ahead and try these 3 on your own real quick. All right, so we have 55 questions in 11 minutes, 36 cookies for every 12 students, and $165 for every 15 hours. And we're going to use this fraction form and or table form to solve some problems later. All right, another way that we can represent rates is by using what's called a double number line. It's a double number line because obviously we have 2 number lines. It's important to note that the number lines include units, so we always need to be aware of our units. So example A has to do with dollars to hours, and B has to do with degrees to hours. So let's go ahead and look and try and write a couple rates for these. So they're stacked on top of each other to represent the rates. So for example, if we look at this one here, we can write this as $30 for every 2 hours. Notice the units here. We can write this rate as $60 for every 4 hours. Okay, and obviously $15 for 1 hour, $45 for 3 hours. And let's say you're babysitting, you get no money if you babysit for no hours. One thing to quickly notice that all of these simplify, besides the 0 over 0, all of these simplify to the same rate, 15 over 1. 30 over 2 is 15 over 1, 45 over 3 is 15 over 1, and 60 over 4 is also 15 over 1. So just an interesting side note there. All right, let's look at example B. We have, this time, degrees to hours. So we have 8 degrees for every 2 hours. Maybe this is the temperature rising during the day. 24 degrees for every 6 hours. And again, if we simplified each of these, we would have the same rate. So 8 to 2, 16 to 4, 24 to 6, 32 to 8 are all going to simplify to 4 degrees in 1 hour. All right, so go ahead, try that on your own. Go ahead and pick 2, let's say, from each double number line. Remember the units, so rates always include units, so don't forget the miles to hours and feet to seconds. All right, so you might have picked different ones, but I just picked 110 miles for 2 hours, 440 miles for 8 hours. For A, for B, I chose 10 feet in 2 seconds and 15 feet in 3 seconds. Again, every one of these for A is going to simplify to 55 miles in 1 hour, or 55 miles per hour. And for B, these all are going to simplify to 5 feet per second. All right, the last thing for today to look at is what's called a unit rate. A unit rate. So this is a special rate that we find for just 1 unit. 1 unit of the denominator is what we're going to look at in particular. So we want the denominator to be 1. So to do this, we're going to divide the numerator by the denominator, and this will make more sense in a couple minutes. All right, we want to write our final answer as the numerator units per the denominator units. So 65 miles per hour, $1.50 per song. Okay, so we want to use this word per in our final answer because it's 65 miles per 1 hour. That's $1.50 per 1 song. Right, so let's look at a couple examples. We have $27 for 3 pizzas. Now when you're doing computation with units, it gets a little messy. So what I like to do is I like to write the units off to the side. So I'm going to do dollars for pizzas. And that's $27 for 3 pizzas. So it's kind of like we're building a table. I'm just not drawing the vertical lines here. All right, we want to know how much this is for 1 pizza. So we want this per pizza. How many dollars per pizza? Well, how do we go from 3 to 1? Well, like we said, we just divide by the denominator. And we have to do that to the numerator as well. So the numerator divided by the denominator tells us the unit rate. So 27 divided by 3 is 9. So that means we have $9 per 1 pizza. So each pizza costs $9. Next we have miles and hours. So miles and hours, and we want to know how much it is for 1 hour. How many miles per 1 hour? So we have 160 over 4, and we want to know how many for 1 hour. How many miles for 1 hour? Well, again, we just need to divide the numerator by the denominator. We're going to just divide by 4 here. So 160 divided by 4 is 40. So our final answer is 40 miles per 1 hour. And last but not least, we're comparing gallons to minutes. So we have 32 gallons in 8 minutes. We want to know a unit rate means we want it for 1 unit. Unit rate means we want to know for 1 unit. So to go from 8 to 1, just like all the other ones, we are dividing by that denominator. So 8 divided by 8 is 1, 32 divided by 8 is 4. So now doing our per statement, we have 4 gallons per 1 minute. So this is called a unit rate because for all of these, we are finding out what the rate is for 1 of the units. Now, one thing we didn't come across is the numerator can be a decimal. So when you do this division, you might end up with a decimal here, and that's perfectly fine. All right, go ahead and try that on your own. All right, so for A, you get 5 questions per minute. For B, you get 3 cookies per student. And C, you get $11 per hour. All right, so again, rates, in summary, rates are just ratios, just using different units. And unit rates are rates simplified so that we are just looking at the rate for 1 unit in that denominator. All right, that will do it for today.